to us. I was like, oh, that's cute.
Like, what does that mean?
I said, I'll tell you what I told Dwight. I just learned in college, if you hit tab on the little colon thingies on Microsoft Word, it gets not filled in. And they're like, okay, then.
Can you tell me if you won or not? Or
I did win.
You did?
I did not.
Oh, okay. You didn't have to play against Matt, did you?
No.
Oh.
No. Josh was talking about, or John was talking about that, saying how since Matt stopped playing, it's been a lot more fun for everyone else.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was playing. I did really well. The name game I bombed on, and then the ADP game I actually did really well on.
See, the name game is what I did best, which I was really worried about that.
They even did Marvel characters, which is right up my wheelhouse, and I just couldn't think of the players.
Yeah, they did Halloween for us.
Yeah, so I kind of want to start with something. So what were you doing in Red Dead? Were you killing horses and stuff like that?
I have all the territories. I have at least a $200 bounty, so I literally have bounty hunters coming after me nonstop.
There's a guy at my work with who's like, I just can't stop killing horses. Like, that's a problem. Anyways,
I don't ride my horse anywhere. I walk, so then if I get any animals, I just kill them all that way.
Right.
I think I've killed a horse.
I saw the greatest video of like some guys, like he hunted down this rare white horse.
Yeah.
And he said it took me an hour and a half to find it, and then a moose comes out of nowhere and kills him.
There's a lot of that
damn thing you'd ever see. He's like, it took me an hour to find this horse, and then this moose just kills him. Oh, it was hilarious. Like, I'd been mad as hell.
There was one I saw. The guy was trying to start a mission with this character because it was like, to get 100% on the game, you have to do every side mission that pops up as you walk around. And the guy was at like 99.2%. And this guy, he was walking up to him, and a deer came by and killed the guy. So the side mission got knocked out. And he was just flipping.
That one makes, I loved the first ones. That actually makes me want to get a better console. But the first one was one of the rare games I played a lot.
Oh yeah, it was good.
Oh, let me see here. I keep getting these weird little chimes, and I can't figure out a way to get rid of them. I'm gonna have to kill some stuff on my computer, and next time I take it to work. So, you ready, man?
Yep.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 3 of the Devy Owner's Manual. I am one of the hosts. My name is Dwight Peebles. I am the FF Peebles Champ on Twitter. Let me introduce my co-host, Andrew. Andrew, how you doing tonight, man?
I'm good, Dwight. How are you doing?
I'm good, man. And anybody wants to find Andrew on Twitter, he is an FFMandrew. And we have a Twitter handle. It's at Devy Manual. Our email address is devyownersmanual@gmail.com. If you want to send us any questions or have us look at your roster, anything like that, feel free to reach out to us. Just real quick before we get fired up this week, I want to thank Chris and Adam with the Dynasty Owner's Manual, who kind of took us under their wings and let us fly out under the own. I never know what to say with that. I always start this fun analogy, then I can't keep it going. So thanks to Chris and Adam anyways for getting us started. Anyways. All right, first we'll go through the weekend recap. And obviously, I mean, it's Thursday now. We're recording this on Thursday night, so we've had a lot of time to digest it was supposed to be a big game between Alabama and LSU, and it just ended up being another boring Alabama win.
It turned into game night at my house.
Man, Andrew, what was your biggest takeaway from the game? Was there anybody that really surprised you? Good, bad, anything?
I'll start with some player takeaways, and then I got a team takeaway. That'll be the king of all hot takes. As far as what surprised me, I guess it really shouldn't be a surprise. Tua had his Heisman moment with that long run he had where he was grabbing his leg afterwards, which isn't an issue going forward. Jude, oh my gosh, what's his name? Jerry Jeudy for Alabama. When he did that stutter step and made the LSU defender completely go flying by him, like it was a video game move. The offense really is what surprised me. I don't know if the LSU defense is just that overrated or if Alabama's offense is that good. LSU defense, we know, has Devin White and Greedy Williams and a lot of good prospects there. But it's one of those things where it's just Alabama makes it look so easy week after week after week. And Paul Feinbaum was talking about it this past two. He's 29-0. That was only their second closest game for the whole year. And I'm working on an article right now for Dynasty Happy Hour. Their average margin of victory is 37.2 points. I mean, it's the SEC too. So it's not like they're playing
Pac-12.
Yeah, anybody from the Mountain West or from the Sun Belt Conference, if that even exists anymore. But, it's that team, and this is my hot take. I think when it's all said and done, if they run the table and it's not close the rest of the way, this is going to be the best team ever. As far as on paper, as far as prospects, I just think at the end of the day, this team is the best team ever in college football. I would take them over 95 Nebraska, 2004 USC, 2005 Texas, the early Miami teams, the late 2000 Florida teams. I mean, I would take Alabama over all of them, probably by double digits.
Right, and what's scary is I don't even think that's as much of a hot take as you may think. Like, I think a lot of people are starting to get on board with it. They're going to have the last test, and that's Clemson. And I don't see Clemson. Clemson's going to score on them, that's for sure. But I don't know if they can stop them at all. That's the problem.
Yeah, I think the closest game would be them against Michigan, in all honesty. And I don't even think then it would be that close. I still think it's a 20-point game.
Right. I don't think Michigan's offense can score on them. That's the problem Michigan's going to run into. That defense is, it's nasty.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of defense, I know, Dwight, you like watching a couple players in particular. Was there anyone that stuck out to you?
Yeah, the one that really stuck out was Quinnen Williams, man. He just this freight train that he is on right now, like barely heard of before the season, as the next man up on the line, and he's vaulting into the top 5 of drafts. And this may be my hot take, but I honestly think he is a better prospect than Bosa or Oliver at this point. And
I'm hearing a lot of people say that.
And I wonder if Bosa sitting out is going to cost him in the draft. I think he'll end up going first or second anyways, just because of what he brings to the table. But Quinnen is like such a better, well-rounded player. He's a run stopper, pass defender. Pass rusher. He had 10 tackles and 2.5 sacks against a pretty decent offensive line. And he's been putting up these numbers against some of the best offensive linemen in the country that are down in the SEC. So it's amazing to watch him. He's another one of those guys that stands out on tape. Like, you just kind of always know where he's at. Like, he's just wrecking stuff, and he's a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, and that's the crazy part with him too. He's on a loaded defense. So for him to really stick out is speaking a lot to his talent level. And NFL evaluators and scouts and everybody all over, I'm hearing nothing but good things. I think Matt Miller just had an article last week or two on him, and he was talking on his Stick to Football podcast how he's not going to probably reach the Myles Garrett grade, but he certainly is going to be right up there with him, which is saying a lot too, because Myles Garrett, Jadeveon Clowney, and Khalil Mack have turned into the 3 legendary college pass rushers that have entered the NFL in the last couple of years. And if he's up there with that, then look out.
That's what I like about him, though, is he's not just that pass rusher. He's like a complete defensive lineman, and that's you don't see that very often. I mean, he's like a combination of Snacks Harrison and Jadeveon Clowney, which is crazy. So I think the sky's the limit for him, and he's going to make an impact in day one.
And then the team we already talked about, Michigan, they slapped the hell out of Penn State like they stole something. There's no other way to put it. On that note, what stood out from that game for you, Dwight?
Really, I wasn't very high on Devin Bush coming into the season, and he's the guy there that really seems to hold that defense together. And the defense has got a couple pro prospects, but it's still a defense that's come into its own. Rashawn Gary didn't even really stand out in this game at all. And he's probably one of their best pro prospects as well. but it's just such a good defense. I mean, it's stifling. I really would like to see them make the playoffs just so they can see them against. Because if they'll probably get in as a 4, so they're going to have to start right off with Alabama, unfortunately. But it would be kind of nice to see them go up against a couple of them, and see how they do. I'd like to see them go against Clemson and Alabama somehow, But it's just an impressive defense overall. Yeah, and once again, it's just not. Chase Winovich was really quiet in the game as well, and it was just a great effort all around. They pretty much bottled up Miles Sanders, and nothing stood out for Penn State really. The Gross Matos guy that I like quite a bit was real quiet in this game as well. So, was there offensive? Did anybody stand out offensively in the game? It was not the prettiest game.
Patterson's really exciting me as far as how his development's going. That Notre Dame game at the beginning of the year left a real sour taste in his mouth, and I think that was more him kind of getting used to and comfortable with Jim Harbaugh and his system. I'm really liking Karan Higdon lately. He had another 100-yard game, and he's really, I think, starting to gain a lot more traction in this running back class that'll be coming out because he is a senior. I think he could definitely have a role in the NFL on a team. Not necessarily a 3-down back, but someone who could split the load, which is what it seems like a lot of teams are doing, copycat in the New England Patriots. And other than that, there wasn't really too much, like you said, on offense. Penn State was completely bottled up and shaken and poured down the drain like it was nothing. So that's what really stood out to me. So I think I tweeted out I was working with a customer and it was 28-0, and then I was done working with my customer and it was 42-0. I was like, good Lord. So no, it was really impressive. And I don't know, again, it's kind of like with LSU Alabama. I don't know if the Penn State offense is just really faltering that much and missing Saquon, or if it was Michigan's really that good. But that's something we'll find out come playoff time.
Oh, absolutely. Another couple teams that were in the playoff picture. I don't know if they're realistically. Georgia probably still has a slight chance if they somehow beat Alabama. But Georgia played Kentucky, and offensively, I think I saw you tweeting during the game that you were wrong on the running backs there in Georgia.
Yeah, I'm going to take this time to apologize to Mr. DeAndre Swift. I think my boxing fandom got the best of me when I decided to go with Elijah Holyfield. So with all due respect to him, I think DeAndre Swift is definitely the star running back in that backfield for now. Lord knows they'll have more recruits come up and they'll be replacing them. But Swift, I think, really the breakaway touchdown he had that really got Georgia ahead, and then they didn't really look back from there. Both him and Holyfield had over 100 yards on only a couple. They had sorry.
Yeah, I think Swift only had a couple. I think he had like 12 carries, and I think Holyfield had more.
Yeah.
He's not quite as dynamic, and I don't blame you for saying he's better because I wouldn't want his father to come after me. But.
No. But yeah, Holyfield, he had 18 carries for 115 yards. Swift had 16 carries for 156 yards. He had the bigger breakaway plays, and that's what I think makes Swift just a little bit better. He's more of the big play type guy. Holyfield's more of that consistent. You could run the ball with him 30 times in a game, and he'll still average probably 4 or 5 yards a carry. But Swift, if he ran the ball with him 20, 30 times in a game, he'd probably set the NCAA rushing record for a game at that rate, the way he breaks them off. Anything else you wanted to add?
No.
Okay. And then a quiet game from Josh Allen, the only Josh Allen playing football right now. Was there anybody else that stood out on either side of the ball for you on defense?
Just Monty Rice in Georgia. He looks like he's definitely warming up to the position. He was slated to take over there for Roquan Smith, and he's definitely starting to find his groove. He had 8 tackles and a sack, and he's just getting better. He's definitely more involved. You can tell that he's getting the game, like it's coming under his feet. He's definitely seemed like he's getting better angles, diagnosing plays better. So I think he's going to be the next great linebacker. He's going to be out. he'll be at least one more season there. So, yeah, I really liked him. But other than that, there wasn't a whole lot of defensive guys in the game. Just Georgia's really solid. Kentucky, I wish they had a little more offense. I think they could be a fun team to watch. And they've got another tough game this week, too. But now we're going to get to our pride stickers. Every week, we're going to give out a pride sticker for the player who made the most difference in the week, like who we think had the biggest game for their team. Andrew, who gets your pride sticker this week?
So, little backstory. I went up to Buffalo last year, and I saw Anthony Johnson. I did not see the Anthony Johnson, the wide receiver. I saw Anthony Johnson, the former UFC fighter. What I should have done was go to the University of Buffalo and seen Anthony Johnson, the wide receiver, from there. He has really started to pick up the last couple games. He's been – let me start that over. Last couple games, he's really started to break off bigger catches and bigger plays in general. But last week, he really had his best game of the year by far, with 8 catches for 238 yards and 3 touchdowns, one of them being a 75-yard touchdown. I think with him, he's really benefiting from the excellent quarterback play from Tyree Jackson, who's another potential quarterback prospect to watch out for. Still more to learn about him. But I think Anthony Johnson, with his size, 6'2", roughly 210, he could definitely be a solid NFL playmaker, I think, for any team. Reminds me a little bit, based on his big playability, of a Josh Gordon, but he doesn't have nearly the problems of Josh Gordon. So it'll be interesting to see how he translates. He's one of the ones I'm really excited to hear or see where he goes. And then what about you, Dwight? Who got your sticker?
It's got to be Quinnen Williams to shine on the biggest stage like that when probably half the country was watching. I mean, it was – I mean, everybody got to see Tua, but I think if you were really watching, you definitely saw possibly the most talented player on their team, I think. So it was impressive. He's a – man, the linemen that are coming in this draft next year. Wow.
No.
Wow.
Quinn Williams, I think, is a disruptor, is the best way to explain it. It's just if you're hoping for something good to happen on a play, he's going to do the Dikembe finger wag and tell you not today.
Right. I think if he puts up a couple more statistically sound games like this with 10 tackles, several sacks, I think you've got to mention him in the Heisman race. As much of a difference as he's made, I can't say anything else. I definitely think he should be in the Heisman conversation. Obviously, he won't get invited to New York. But and speaking of the Heisman, Andrew, it didn't seem like there was a whole lot of movement this week. Did anybody else? I know Travis Etienne had an amazing game. 8 carries, 153 yards, and a touchdown. That's 8 carries for 153 yards. That doesn't seem right. Anyways, who's your top 5 right now, Andrew?
I would have to say number 1, like I said, Tua had his Heisman moment, that one where they can just constantly play over and over for years to come, with that touchdown run he had against LSU. Etienne, I'd probably say, moved into second place just because he's on that dominant Clemson team, and he's really the reason that offense is really clicking now. And like we've been talking for weeks now, he's a big reason why Lawrence is getting more comfortable and finding success with them. Kyler Murray, still got to talk about in that high-scoring game last week. Without him, I don't know if they would have won that game, because that defense is a Big 12 defense. There's not much more you can say. Gardner Minshew, he stays there at 4. Nothing too spectacular, but a new name at 5, again, just because they have to invite these people. Everyone after 2 is not going to win, but Sam Ehlinger, I really like him, from Texas. Matt Miller alluded to it on Twitter last week, and I was thinking it, and I didn't get to say it beforehand, but as a Florida fan, I'm not saying he's Tim Tebow, but he certainly plays the type, that big-bodied quarterback. He's not the greatest passer, but the way he runs the ball and carries the team, I definitely think without him, Texas is not where they would be. So he, again, like Tebow, is an emotional team supporter. What about you, Dwight?
Just a second.
No problem.
Okay. Yeah, I definitely have no issues with your list. The only one that I would possibly throw in there is Dwayne Haskins isn't out of it, but he definitely doesn't look good. But he's got a couple really critical games coming up at Michigan State, and then also the 24th, when Michigan comes to town. If he can really turn around and blow out those teams somehow, I think he's back in the conversation. But as of right now, I think it's still going to come down to Etienne and Kyler, and I don't see how anybody's going to really break into that trio at this point. So yeah, I like it, man. But it's Tua's race. Tua's race to lose, man.
Alabama's dominating the playoff, and they're dominating the Heisman. So
that's what I got.
I thought it Mike Gundy on the show.
No, I think next week, episode 4, we're going to not mention Alabama. I don't know how. But what do you think?
That would be a challenge. We'll do it.
All right. Next, we get to our strategy. We don't really have much strategy to talk about at this time of year. We talked last week about, how to be active and pursue Devy at this time of year when you're rebuilding. But I actually ran across an article that I thought was interesting. I've actually saw a couple mock drafts, and now we've got a better idea of where teams are going to draft and what exactly they might need next year. So I saw Matt Miller's and also John Ledyard, who writes for make sure I get this right here.
The Draft Network.
Yep, who writes for the Draft Network and also does the Locked on the NFL Draft podcast. We're going to go with that one for today, and we're just going to quickly kind of go through that real quick and give you an idea of what, if the season ended now, like what the mock draft might look like, or what the NFL draft would look like. Sorry. And it's actually pretty interesting. I think it's fairly accurate. I didn't seem to have any issues with it. A lot of players, it's a lot different, obviously, than it was a couple months ago. But as of right now, it looks like the Giants will have the first pick and the Raiders second. So what do you think about the first pick there, Andrew?
I think New York has forced themselves to have to take Justin Herbert at this point. I'm not people they should have taken a quarterback last year, just because Saquon, he's showing he's going to be a generational talent. That term that everyone loves being thrown around, but he really will be. I said last year I think he could end up being a Hall of Famer, Marshall Faulk type, and Oklahoma, good Lord, Indianapolis. They drafted Marshall Faulk before they drafted Peyton Manning. And Peyton Manning has said that Marshall Faulk was key to his growth and success early on in Indianapolis when they still had him before they traded him. And then Kurt Warner, again, credited him there too. So a running back like that, while it may be a passing league, Barkley is still able to help there. And I think with Herbert, that would take a lot of stress off of him, similar to ETN with Lawrence and Clemson. And then with the second pick, Oakland taking Nick Bosa. Again, that's one of those things where they're forced to, where John Gruden got rid of Khalil Mack. And, I mean, getting Nick Bosa, you don't know how he's going to pan out. But, I mean, he's certainly, if you're going to replace Khalil Mack with somebody, I think Nick Bosa would be your dream candidate for doing so.
Oh, absolutely, without a doubt. I think those first two picks are pretty much locked in. It's almost looking like the Giants and Raiders will be 1 and 2 unless one makes some sort of mini run or something. And that makes the most sense for both of those teams. If the Raiders somehow ended up at 1, I think they'll still take Bosa. And like you said, the Giants kind of have to take a quarterback, and I don't disagree with that. Although it would be kind of funny to see them pass on a quarterback and watch Dynasty Frank freak out again. Pick number 3, they've got the 49ers. He's got the 49ers taking Deontay Thompson, the safety from Alabama, which I really love. It's you can't go wrong with a really, really good safety that has the range and the ball skills that Deontay Thompson does. So I think that's a pretty good pick too. They could go several ways. They've got Greedy Williams at 4, and I could see San Francisco also going that way. But not to jump ahead of myself too much. What do you think about that, Andrew?
I think it fits who their GM is, who is John Lynch, who is he a Hall of Famer?
He is a Hall. I don't know if he's a Hall of Famer, but he freaking should be.
Yeah.
One of my absolute all-time favorite players.
Yeah, no, John Lynch, that's a John Lynch pick. And he should be a Hall of Famer, but no, I think Thompson likes a lot, and there's a lot to like about him. So, no, in San Francisco, I think that'd be a very good fit for them. Fourth, do you mind if I cover that, Dwight?
Go ahead.
Fourth pick, John has the Buffalo Bills, getting some cornerback help in a division that, for the time being, still has Tom Brady. And as long as it potentially has Tom Brady, you got to get some pass defense. So they get Trey White, the former LSU product, his old teammate back in Greedy Williams, who I think would be let me start over. If you could name a better two young corner combo, I'd like to know it. I mean, if you could have Trey White and Greedy Williams for the next 5, 7, 10 years together, I mean, you've got a pretty solid lockdown corners on both sides of the ball. And for whoever replaces Tom Brady, because I'm sure they'll outplay him, they will have one up on them and making it rough for whoever New England gets in there to replace them. And Miami, you don't know how it's going to be with Tannehill there, and then Sam Darnold. They'll just make his life miserable the whole time he's with New York.
Just a second.
No problem.
I'm drawing a blank.
You're good.
Yeah, I definitely like that. That duo there would be the only ones that I could think that even come close would be the Packers duo of Kevin King and Josh Jackson. They're an amazing duo as well.
And Jair Alexander.
Yeah, I mean they're really set in that division. Then after that he's got Arizona Cardinals taking Quinnen Williams again, and that is honestly probably the best pick of the first 5 as far as needs. They have been gashed all year by the run, and they've got some good defensive pieces still, and he would really help glue that middle down. And I absolutely love that pick, and I think the Cardinals would be just absolutely tickled if you fell to them at 5.
No, you know who will be tickled if this player falls to the Browns at 6? Me. You're listening to this wherever you're listening to it. Just picture me completely drooling.
I don't like this pick. I don't.
You don't like it.
I don't.
It's because you're not a Browns fan.
No, look what they've already got. I don't want to forget that guy's name, Larry O, Myles Garrett, but Ogba. I mean, yeah, no.
You would have a defensive line that goes Myles Garrett, Ed Oliver, Larry Ogunjobi, and Emmanuel Ogba.
I know it would be amazing, but I just think there's a lot of other needs as well. Like I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't fault them for taking it, but that's one of the first ones I've seen that I was like,
And I will say my first gut reaction to this pick was, and I think he addresses it in the paragraph, he does, left tackle is an absolute need. I mean, I've been watching all year, and thank God they got rid of Desmond Harrison at left tackle, because my wife's watching the game. She's like, hey, that number 69 has a hold again. I'm like, oh, good figure.
Yeah, like he's got Jonah Williams going at 8 to the Broncos, and I would rather the Browns get him at 6. But.
And that's who I was hoping he would put in there. But again, if you're going to get somebody else, is Ed Oliver, I won't complain.
Yeah, he's got Josh Allen from Kentucky going to the Jets at 7. He says he doesn't agree with it, but I do think that if anybody's going to do that, and the Jets are willing to take that kind of risk, they've already got some pieces on defense that would make this just amazing. Like that'd be a really nasty defense. Like it's already coming into its own with drawing a blank on the linebackers, Williamson and Darren Lee, and they got Jamal Adams and Marcus May in the secondary. And yeah, I think Josh Allen, that'd be fun in New York, man.
Yeah, they were in the Khalil Mack sweepstakes for a short time, and I think, again, he's not going to be Khalil Mack, but they do need a pass rusher. They got the linebackers with Deron Lee finally playing to his ability, and mentioned Marcus May and Jamal Adams. Their secondary is pretty short up. They just need that pass rush help, and with that, I think that defense would be right up there as far as with one of the best in the league.
Right. Well, they have a lineman going to the Broncos at 8, Jonah Williams. We don't need to talk about that for fantasy. And then at 9, he's got Jeffrey Simmons, the defensive tackle from Mississippi State, going to the Colts. I mean, you can't fault that pick at all. The Colts are a team that needs defense so bad, like any piece of defense at that point. And I really like Simmons a lot. Some guys have him or have had him as the top lineman, but I think he's probably 3rd or 4th on my list. I kind of flip-flop him around a little bit. Very good run stopper, very athletic, has a great motor. So, yeah, he would definitely help them on the line, which is what they need a lot of help on defense.
Yes. No, yeah, I agree with Jeffrey Simmons being the only problem is, I don't know, they talked about it briefly earlier in the year. They had the one video surface. I won't have to talk about it, but it wouldn't look good if I was a general manager and I saw it. It would certainly turn me off from him personally, but that's something he'll have to deal with when interviews go through and teams check backgrounds. I'm sure it's something he'll be answering a lot if he goes to the combine. But number 10, a pick I really like for Jacksonville, Noah Fant. Is it Fant or Font? Fant.
Fant, I believe, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, number 10, Jacksonville takes Noah Fant. They don't have a lot of holes apart from quarterback, which there's no quarterback here I would take, which I think John again alludes to in his mention of this pick. They don't have a tight end. I was actually on Dynasty Game Night yesterday, and one of the things was AFC South tight end. They joked, well, hopefully it's not from Jacksonville because we can't name any of them. So, and Fant would certainly help out whether Bortles somehow stays there or whoever they get in. Right. Tight ends are always nice safety valves for quarterback, and Fant is certainly the best in a long time. Obviously, taking a tight end in the top 10 doesn't happen every year, so that just speaks to his potential.
Yeah, it worked for the Lions and Eric Ebron, didn't it? Anyways, speaking of the Lions, he's got him taking Clelin Ferrell from Clemson. You can't absolutely fault that pick at all. They definitely could use that, especially if they can somehow keep hold of Harrison for a couple of years. I think they have him for a couple. And they also have Ziggy Ansah and put Ferrell in there, and you got to love that pick. And then he's got Tampa Bay taking Byron Murphy, the quarterback from Washington. Great pick. They definitely need some secondary help. They're getting absolutely gashed this year. 13, he's got Raekwon Davis, the defensive tackle for Alabama. I
like him a lot.
Yeah, you can't fault that as well. Like the Tennessee Titans they're just like a good solid team, so they're kind of one of those ones that could just need a piece everywhere.
He's a Mike Vrabel type guy too. I think
right.
It makes a lot of sense.
All right, you can take 14.
And then 14, now Oakland Raiders fans have been freaking out. Deservedly so. He lost Khalil Mack and Amari Cooper, who I wasn't very high on, but you can replace Amari Cooper with John has them taking DK Metcalf here, wide receiver from Ole Miss. If he declares and Oakland somehow gets him here, I think he could potentially be even better than Amari Cooper. Now, the questions will be around his neck. Understandably so. Mike Williams had the same questions when he came out of Clemson. He still was a top 10 pick, and we're finally seeing this year, now that he's getting to play more consistently, what he can actually do. Wide receivers take a little bit. We talked about that last week, but I think Metcalf would certainly be Derek Carr's number one target very quickly. And I think he'd be a big hit off with Oakland fans too. He has that big size, and he's not afraid to get dirty. So somebody that Raiders fans, I think, could definitely fall in love with.
Okay, you take 15 too.
Okay. And then 15, we got the Green Bay Packers taking one of my Florida Gators, Ja'Kai Polite. Oh my gosh. We got the Green Bay Packers taking Ja'Kai Polite, edge rusher from Florida. He has been one of the names that wasn't talked about so much before the year, but he's quickly forced himself into the conversation for being one of the top players in this draft. Green Bay still has that need at pass rusher. They tried the Sheldon Richardson experiment, and that didn't really pan out. Clay Matthews is getting up there as far as age goes. And I think Ja'Kai Polite in a conference or division where you have to face Kirk Cousins, Matthew Stafford, and Mitch Trubisky each 2 times a year. You got to have pass rush. And if they have the pass rush, he'll force bad decisions. And as the quarterback trio we talked about, we'll be able to take advantage of that as well.
Right. He's gonna love trying to track down those 3 statue quarterbacks there. They got 16 taking N'Keal Harry for the Baltimore Ravens, which another team need that he fits it perfectly, and he'll be, if Flacco sticks around, he'll be his best friend. But I'd like to see him grow with Lamar Jackson. It should be a really great place for him to fall. That would be probably Ravens fans' dream come true.
Yeah, as a Browns fan, I don't really like the pick, but if I'm a Ravens fan, I would love to get N'Keal Harry.
Yep, they got 17 taking Seahawks taking Jerry Tillery from Notre Dame, which is a great pick. Just feel they need some more linemen to get there. They've got Frank Clark and Rasheem Green on the ends, and I think Tillery is a great pick for them. He definitely fits the mold of what they typically look for. They have 18 Philadelphia Eagles taking DeAndre Baker from the cornerback from Georgia. Another great. I mean, I'm going to say that. It seems like I'm saying the same thing about every team here. Another, he would definitely fill another need there. They in a division that. Ugh.
You're good.
Catch up. I'm incredibly tired. Dog kept me up all last night.
The dog.
Having to go to the bathroom. We have an old dog that, yeah, if I don't let her out, it's not good. So, so anyways, obviously cornerback's always a need these days with the way the league is turned into such a pass-friendly league. Never have enough good cornerbacks, and DeAndre Baker is one of the best out there. They have 19. He has Gerald Willis from Miami going there, which surprised me a little bit. I think there's some better talent out there, but he could fill a need. Oh man,
you're good. No, I definitely think they have a need there at linebacker. Deion Jones, he's hurt this year, but I mean, obviously, I think he practiced this week actually. You can't get enough linebacker help, especially one who can potentially help in both the pass rush and the pass defense in general, being able to play back and play zone a little bit. So I don't have a problem with the pick. An interesting pick I really like here, though, is at number 20. He has Miami finally thrown in the towel on the Ryan Tannehill project, which I think has gone a year or two too long. Taking the Duke quarterback prospect, Daniel Jones. I talked about it in a couple Devy articles a while ago on Dynasty Happy Hour. Daniel Jones, his mechanics to me and the way he handles the ball and his footwork and everything reminds me of a Manning, but that's mainly because their head coach down there is Eli, or was Peyton's, but is Eli's quarterback coach in the offseason. They would go down there and work out with him. So I see a lot of that with him, just in his mannerisms. Vikings are taking Caden Smith, another tight end, like we've been talking about too. This tight end class is certainly one that's going to stick out. Two tight ends in the top 21 picks doesn't happen every year. Caden Smith, Noah Fant, is definitely worthy of the pick. A lot of teams are going towards those 2 tight end lineups, and Kyle Rudolph matched up with Caden Smith will certainly be fun to watch. And then at 20, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't think Rudolph has too many more years left in him, and it'll definitely give Caden a little time to develop as well. Right. At 22, they've got the Redskins taking Devin White, which I don't think he'll last this far. I imagine some people will get him before that. And I think if he fell this far, the Redskins would be ungodly happy. They're another team that they definitely need some help beyond Zach Brown. So he would fit right in and be a day one starter there. I don't think he's going to make it to 22, but you never know. At 23, the Bengals take an offensive tackle, Caleb McGarry from Washington. Bengals always need offensive line help. Good pick. Texans taking David Edwards, the offensive tackle from Wisconsin. Also, they need a lot of offensive line help as well. And another Raiders pick, This time they're taking Bryce Hall, the cornerback from Virginia. You know, I actually have nothing on Bryce Hall. I know almost nothing about him. He's one guy that I'm definitely going to have to scout in the offseason a little better.
He's one that the Draft Network's podcast, they were going off, draft dudes. They were going off about Bryce Hall a couple episodes ago, and they're really, really excited about him the more they watch him. So I'm sure you'll be the same way. 26 Pittsburgh Steelers. He has them taking Mac Wilson, linebacker out of Alabama. Unfortunately, there's still no idea if Ryan Shazier not necessarily will come back and play football. If I'm Pittsburgh, I'm definitely planning to move on without him. They do have need at cornerback. Pat Mahomes torched them this year. And showed every hole they have. But I think linebacker is still a big need in that division. And then 27, he has the LA Chargers taking player I didn't think would fall this far, but I mean, with the injuries he's had this year, he might be there. And this is actually probably one of my favorite picks of the whole mock draft. He has Rashawn Gary going to the LA Chargers. You pair him up with a healthy Joey Bosa and Melvin Ingram, and you've got problems in the AFC West.
That's scary. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that would be the only thing that could potentially stop Pat Mahomes here from dominating that division for years to come. Anything you've watched from Rashawn Gary that you really like, Dwight?
Yeah, like I said, he's not one of those players I love a whole lot, but I definitely know he's got the athletic ability. When I've seen him on tape, I haven't been overly impressed with him. But I think he's also been in a situation where he's been asked to do a lot, and he does see a lot of double teams. And he won't see any on that line. That's for damn sure. So I definitely like that spot. And he's one that's he's a little more raw. So give him a little time and he'll be just fine there. Same as with another raw guy, another great edge rusher, Carolina Panthers. He has taken Montez Sweat from Mississippi State at 28, which is another guy who's just got an incredible motor, huge guy, just has great hands, He's a pass rushing monster. He is great. I think I like that pick as well. He's got 29. The Patriots taking Julian Love, the cornerback from Notre Dame, which is phenomenal pick as well. New England definitely needs some secondary help if they need anything there. Take us home, Andrew. What are the last three picks? Good luck with that game at 30.
Packers are taking an offensive tackle, Yannick Kajus. Offensive tackle, obviously, again, not a very big fantasy impact-wise, but nonetheless, we'll move on. Number 31, the LA Rams. He has them taking Brian Burns, the edge rusher out of Florida State, as if this destructive defensive line needed any more firepower. The Philadelphia Eagles showed it last year winning the Super Bowl. If you can have guys on a rotation and you just keep bringing in fresh bodies, eventually offensive lines are going to wear down, and they could definitely take advantage of them. And then another pick, well, not another pick, the last pick in the first round, number 32, he has the Kansas City Chiefs taking Draymond Jones, who's another defensive line prospect who I feel like is not getting talked about enough. I feel like there's a lot of them not getting talked about enough just because there is Ed Oliver, Joey Bosa, Quinton Williams, all taking all the spotlight, but
You talk about the ones that he doesn't have in the first round, and it's crazy.
Oh, exactly.
Dexter Lawrence, Shane Jimenez. There's several that just pop off the top of my head that were considered first round picks going into this year, and he doesn't even have them in his mock draft. So it's crazy. It's going to be. Yeah, I definitely think John did a great job with this. I think Matt Miller's was pretty darn similar. If I remember right, we have just a second. I don't want to spend too much time dwelling on it, but let me look at his really fast here. Whoops, never mind. I don't have a link to his, so we'll skip that part. So once again, that was John Ledyard. You can follow him on Twitter at Ledyard NFL Draft, and he just does some great work. He does a lot of draft research. That's like his big thing. So
a lot of people over at Draft Network, if you have not checked it out, I'm on it. I have the website home screened on my phone. That's how much I'm on it. So they're constantly putting out good stuff.
What's silly is it's such a visually beautiful site.
Mm-hmm.
It's so easy to read and navigate. I love it. I know it's silly, but all right, real quick. We're getting down here in the time, so let's go through the weekend preview real quick.
No problem.
Andrew, there's a potential trap game, but it should be a good game with South Carolina taking on Florida. And what the heck's it going to take to make Florida change their quarterback? Didn't I see this morning that their backup is out for the rest of the year?
Yeah, Trask had a non-contact knee injury today in practice. They haven't said what it is yet, but that phrase non-contact knee injury is always great to hear whenever you're talking about a quarterback. I think what it's going to take for Florida to make a quarterback change is for the year to end and Felipe Franks to graduate and go away. I think that's about it. So, again, we talked about it last week, and I've been talking about it all year and on Twitter. Dan Mullen is the man Florida needs and deserves, and he's been great for the whole team. They've really played on their expectations. It was nice having them potentially in the top 10 this conversation all year, but I think the following weeks we're going to see them kind of get back down to earth. I don't think they'll beat South Carolina this week. I think South Carolina with Will Muschamp, the former Florida coach, who I don't like very much, he has South Carolina playing nitty-gritty, and I think those wide receivers, Edwards and Samuel, are going to have a good game against on-edge Florida defense. It'll be interesting to see if they can bounce back. And speaking of that Florida defense and South Carolina in general, is there anybody you are going to be interested to watch, right?
Yep, just the ones we've talked about the last couple of weeks for Florida, Polite. We got to figure that out, don't we? And Voshon Joseph, he's definitely stepped to the forefront. As far as South Carolina, TJ Brunson is a linebacker prospect you really got to keep your eye on. He's getting just boatloads of tackle, leading the middle of the defense there. He's likely coming back for a senior season, but let me pull up his stats real quick. Dang it.
You're good. AJ Dillon's size anyway.
Yeah. He's a beast. Should have this. Yeah, for some reason I've had time at work and just haven't been very prepared this week. So.
Yeah, I had something happen at work today where I didn't even get to make all my notes.
All right, TJ Brunson had 88 tackles his sophomore year, and he's got 64 so far this year with a couple sacks each season. Just a really good-looking inside linebacker, more of a prototypical inside linebacker. Might be a two-down thumper, but we'll see as that process goes along. And another important matchup this week, hence Clemson versus Boston College. It's another chance for Clemson to crush another opponent by insane amounts of scores. But a name that not many are talking about is Boston College's running back, A.J. Dillon. What do you think about him, Andrew?
A.J. Dillon is one of those players who's quickly rising the ranks with a lot of people again. His size and the way he runs, he's 6 foot, 245 roughly. He's not necessarily an Andre Williams type. I think he's going to transition better to the NFL than he did, if you can even remember who he is with his short stint in New York Giants. I do think in general this game might be a little bit closer than people think. You put it in the podcast descriptions, My Unhealthy Obsession with Florida. Clemson or Boston College's head coach is a former Florida assistant, Steve Adazio. So I think he's a good enough coach. I think they'll be ready for Clemson. I still think Clemson wins, but I think it's going to be closer than a lot of people think.
I agree. Yeah, Boston actually has a pretty good defense there. They have lineman Zach Allen is probably going to be drafted on the second day. He had 100 tackles in 2017 from the defensive line, which is almost unheard of. There's actually only 2 players in 2017 that did that from the defensive line. He has 46 this year, including 12.5 for a loss and 5.5 sacks. He's probably their best defensive prospect. Lucas Dennis and Will Harris are a couple safeties there that were really highly regarded going into the season, and both will probably still be day 2, possibly early day 3 picks. So they've definitely got some defensive guys there that can hopefully slow down Clemson long enough for AJ to do some damage on offense. So. And as usual, we can't go a week without a big game for Alabama. Like every week they're playing someone ranked, and this week Mississippi State comes into town. But can anybody on Mississippi State score on Alabama? That's my question.
I'm going to keep this short and sweet for time circumstances. because Alabama doesn't deserve any more airtime. Alabama by 40. It's not going to be this. Fitzgerald's going to be contained. It's just going to be it's Alabama. That's all I can say. It's Alabama as I throw my hands up.
I was actually kind of looking over the schedule, and I was surprised that Mississippi State was ranked as high as they were, truthfully.
Yes.
Another one that, I was kind of shocked. I think I have a couple big names on defense. Jeffrey Simmons, which we talked about briefly in the mock draft. He's a good defensive lineman. They have Jonathan Abram, who's also one of the top safeties in the country. But just
they also have Sweat, too.
Not enough, yeah. Gonna make you sweat till you bleed. Oh, sorry. Anyways, all right. No CNC Music Factory up in here. I'm not that old. Andrew, almost lastly here. What is your upset of the week?
We need to take time to acknowledge that I finally got an upset pick right when Arizona State mopped over Utah.
I don't want your head to get any bigger, Andrew. Come on.
Oh, don't worry, it won't, because you put that bad juju on my Gators with Missouri. Anyway, my upset pick this week, I'm a Browns fan. Everyone knows it. Baker Mayfield being an Oklahoma Sooner, I think he's going to come into Sunday with a lot on his mind when Oklahoma State upsets Oklahoma and ends their college football playoff dreams. I really liked how Oklahoma State was able to close it out against a tough Texas team. I think they have the offense to just make things difficult for that Oklahoma defense who I talked about. It's a Big 12 defense. So, and Oklahoma State doesn't have anything too great either, but I think it'll be a high-scoring game in the 40s, potentially even 50s. So it'll be an entertaining game. Might not be an upset, might be, but I think that was the most realistic ones that I saw this week. What about you, Dwight?
I think Tennessee is actually going to knock off Kentucky. Kentucky's reeling a little bit here, and Tennessee has been playing well at times. So I think that Kentucky's down, and they're just going to kick them while they're down. So, yeah, Rocky Top, baby. You'll always be home, sweet home to be. That's all I got. Anyways.
And then real quick, Dwight, who are some players you're watching this week?
I'd like to see how Jonathan Taylor plays against Penn State. He's an amazing running back, and I don't know, I just like to see a little bit more from him. Ole Miss and Texas A&M game has A.J. Brown and then Travion Williams for A&M, who is another running back that doesn't seem to get much publicity and can be one of those guys that will possibly be a day 2 pick. And I really like him. And also, this week is the return of, I'm going to try not to butcher his name, Laviska Shenault, baby. Colorado's amazing, amazing wide receiver that could possibly be the number 1 wide receiver coming out in 2020. He's an absolutely phenomenal prospect for Colorado. They get to play Washington State. He's got a nice big old stage to shine on. He's just a fun player to watch. If you get a chance, check him out before he gets to the NFL. He's just an electric player. One of those guys that, he's got to love him. He's amazing. Anyways, Andrew, who are you watching?
A player that I think is really starting to become more fun to watch as the season goes on for Scott Frost in Nebraska is Adrian Martinez, their quarterback. They'll be going up against Lovie Smith's Illinois, Fighting Illini of Illinois. Illinois, they're just not having a good year. They're not having a very good tenure under Lovie Smith in general, and I think Adrian Martinez can easily take advantage of them and have a very big game, maybe over 400 yards, maybe 5 or 6 touchdowns. Another fun name that I'm going to watch that I really liked and I followed since I got suckered into that Netflix series, Last Chance U, Dakota Allen, the East Mississippi Community College product. Since he's gotten back to Texas Tech after being dismissed, he's really been a captain on the team. He's been a leader, been a good student overall. He's fun to follow and watch. I don't know how well he'll translate to the NFL, but as far as college goes, he's all over the place, making plays, interceptions, sacks. He's always in the backfield. Wherever the ball and the play ends, look for Dakota Allen to be around there, which is what I really like about him.
Excellent. Should be another. This game doesn't have the huge marquee matchups, but it's definitely got some good ones. Another one that we didn't mention was Ohio State travels to Michigan State, and that should be a pretty good, hopefully a good game. But
anyway, I think Michigan State could beat Ohio State the way Ohio State's been playing lately.
You're gonna put the mojo on me now, don't you?
Oh, it's on you now. Don't worry.
I was actually shocked that Michigan State was ranked 18th. I'm like, really?
I saw that too and thought the same thing.
I'm like, why? Why are we 18? Come on now. Anyways, Andrew, tell the people where you can find you.
They can find me on Twitter at DHH_Mandrew. My wife still reminds me I'm on Twitter too much, but that's not stopping me from being with the people.
Yes. Don't wish that evil on me, woman. Anyways, I am Dwight Peebles. They call me the FF Peebles champ on Twitter. I'm also on Twitter as much as I humanly possibly can without getting a divorce. And once again, our Twitter handle for the show is at Devy Manual and DevyOwnersManual@gmail.com if you have any questions. And everybody have a great weekend watching some college football, and we'll talk to you next week.
Have a good one.
Rock top. Anyway. No. I had actually meant to just launch into singing that one, but I'm like, no, I don't want to scare the people away.
When you said this, I really like this idea. I want to do a small school episode next week.
Yep. Yeah, definitely.
No Alabama.
Yeah, maybe
like games to watch, be like MAC games, Conference USA games.
I definitely want to do one where we briefly go through the big games and then we spend more time on the small prospects.
Yeah. I mean, we could always do that as part of the recap and then transition into. I just think I don't think a lot of people are talking about small school players as much. That'd be one way to stand out.
Like that kid from Colorado. I've been meaning to mention him the last couple of episodes.
Yeah, and that's another, like, Colorado's in the Pac-12, but he's on a shitty Colorado team. So, I mean, if you're okay with that, we could make a small school episode.
Yeah, let's do that. We'll look at the schedule and see if we've got I know Alabama can't play everybody big every week. There's last week almost would have been a good one, but
my Dynasty Happy Hour article coming out tomorrow is talking about Alabama, and I'm just all Alabama'd out.
I am too. I feel like we've had 3 episodes and we keep mentioning the same. I mean, we don't. I specifically tried this time to try to go a different route, but
we could do a small school Heisman thing too.
Yeah.
Instead of being like, oh, it's Tua and everybody else.
Exactly. All right, man.
Yeah, I'll do some notes and research tonight and tomorrow.